Hi, Dutch football fans. It is Football-Oranje. We are back for another podcast talking about the Netherlands under-19s winning the Euros. Unbelievable for the under-19s and a big positive sign for the future ahead with lots of great young Dutch players coming through. This show is available on YouTube, but also on audio platforms. So come and check us out wherever you prefer listening to your shows. I'm here, Mike is here, and Abdul is here. So what did you think of the win? We're not recording this straight after the game. But certainly an exciting game, exciting tournament. And I can't wait on this show to talk about some of the best players from that team to watch in the upcoming year or two.
Well, it was a very exciting, mouth-watering match. We were really excited the entire time and worried the entire time. It's pretty much like what we expected. We expected both teams actually to attack because they both play in attacking style. We expected both of the teams to have some chances, and they both did actually. The match could have ended a lot more than 1-0. It could have ended with more goals for both teams actually. It was very exciting, a very nice win. The first trophy for young Oranje since 2018, I think. It was really interesting, and congratulations to us all. We will talk about the individuals maybe later on.
Yeah, I think it was a really good game. I think if you're a neutral watching that, you would have enjoyed it because there was lots of chances, some big missed chances. Both teams hit the post. I think Spain hit the bar as well. Netherlands missed a couple of one-on-ones. So yeah, it really ebbed and flowed, and it was just Netherlands lucky they got the goal from it was an error by the Spanish goalkeeper because he just flapped into his own net, but they all count, and then they got the win in the end. Great for Netherlands to get that first ever under-19 European Championship win. And yeah, the future looks bright because a lot of these players look like they're ready to play in their first teams.
It's like a lot of them are going to break into their first teams next season, a handful in the Eredivisie. So these are great players to keep tabs on now, the ones we talk about in this show, and enjoy as they go ahead in their careers. So the game itself, the tournament, Netherlands had loads of chances again in the game, and they seem to have lots of goals in them, all of these players. What do you think the main strengths of this side have been throughout the tournament?
The main strength with this team is the highly skilled players, actually. Very skilled individual players who can find a solution when the match is just closed, They can always find their way to score a goal. We have so many players, so many individuals with very good skills. I think this is the main strength in this team, that we did not see it with many players in under 21. That's what makes this team so special.
Yeah, I think it's a very hard-working team as well. I think that players like Smith, Canadu, the amount of running they did in the final, the amount of tracking back they did to always help out when Spain were attacking. At some points, there was 10 men behind the ball, and it had to be, but they were always breaking forward the pace. They always had that right into the 90th minute, running. Players like Keith Smith can do it all. He can do it in attack, he can do it in defence. Reed as well. Reed's a great defender, and he's a great attacker. That's why he's such an exciting right back and looks ready to be, I would say, of all the players here, he looks ready for a Netherlands call-up to the main squad because he is that good. And you have to say, we were saying when Koeman announced the squad and then when Reisiger announced the squad, why isn't Reed there? But it actually turned out, for the best because he was probably... Well, he's the reason why they won it because it was his cross that got turned into on net by the goalkeeper. So I think for him to have that development of leading this Netherlands under-19 side to a trophy means that he is even more ready now to then step up and be part of the national team and be an understudy to Dumfries.
Yeah, let's get into some of these individuals then. Javira Reed playing for Feyenoord, getting lots of games last season. You didn't expect to be the starting right back because of injuries. He was, and now going ahead, it feels like he will be one of those breakout stars, potentially for the Netherlands coming up next season. But with Dumfries, Frimpong potentially in the way at right back, it's quite a tricky position to break into. But he's doing so well, and he's a captain of under-19s. Was a big standout for them in this side. So what does the future hold for him?
The competition for the right back position is very strong. I don't think Koeman will choose a Frimpong as a right back. So the competition is going to be between Dumfries, Timber, and Reed. I think Reed comes third now, but the competition will be very strong between the three players, and that's of course good for Orania. Reed is proving himself. I talked about him in the last stream. He was very impressive last season with Feyenoord in the league and in the Champions League. I barely saw him making any mistakes. So I think the future is very bright for Orani in that position. Speaking of Reed, yeah. And we can talk about also other players like Smith, who was chosen as the top scorer and the best player in the tournament. I think it's well deserved. He's an amazing player. Some clubs already want him, but I'm glad he decided to stay, I think, with AZ for maybe one more season. We have also Sliti. I think he's a very good player. He showed potential in that match. He was very dangerous. So many players in that team. Land was also impressive, in my opinion. So Conado was also good. Maybe he will help us to forget about Broby. If he becomes a top scorer for Ajax in this coming season. So many players to think of really and to talk about.
Case Smith is my favourite one there. I think Mike's favourite one too.
Definitely.
A bit of an engine in midfield, but needs to now show why he has this great reputation within the Netherlands, because it won't be long, will it, till people outside of that in Europe really find out about him. And everyone's talking about Case Smith. But Ajax were going to sign him for like 15 million euros just a couple of weeks ago. And I was shocked, just thinking he's worth more than that, first of all, because of his potential. And yeah, a good job that AZ were like, no, he's not going anywhere. And then Smith himself said, I'm staying with AZ. But I just find it wild that we're already saying that about him, that he might spend one more year with AZ. Like, he could comfortably spend 2 or 3 years there, really become like a landmark player for that team, and to help them push to become an even bigger club in the Netherlands. And then like he could go and do something else. But maybe that's just the nature now of the Eredivisie, where you have one good season with someone and then you go somewhere else. But the fact that he's Dutch, it might just keep him there a bit longer.
I think for me, it depends on the ambition that AZ show, because we know AZ, they bring in money but they don't spend any money. So if you're Keith Smith and you're looking at it going, I can stay here for another year, he's going to do that, and that's great. But 2-3 years, when he sees Meerdink go, when he sees Van Bommel go, and all his teammates going to bigger leagues, is he going to stick around for a club that's not going to really use the money that it has to challenge for the title? So I think that it will be a case of next summer, whether it's to Ajax, whether it's to PSV, because I think both of them will want to spend money on Smith, or whether he decides, right, I'm going to go abroad. Because I think that when he is available, I do think most of the big clubs around Europe are going to want him, especially if he has an excellent season this year. And the confidence that this tournament will give him going into next season is huge. I wonder when he's going to come back to pre-season, because AZ's pre-season got underway today, the first friendly, and played against Kilmarnock. So their season's already getting underway because they've got the early start for Europe. When is Keith Smith going to come back, and is he going to play a big role in those qualifiers? If he does, then that could just go on and on and on. The confidence leading into the league, leading into Europe, and then the big clubs are really going to come calling because he is that good.
It will be a tough season for him, playing in the Eredivisie and the Conference League. A player like him should be really competing for the highest level, despite his age, So it's going to be kind of tough, but I'm glad he chose to stay in AZ. I think that's very mature, actually, from him. One more year or even 2 will make him better and better. We saw many players who left their teams early and they were completely vanished, So hopefully this will not be the case with him, since he decided to stay for this season.
Should talk about another one of the key players in the side now. Which one? Who do you want to talk about next?
Sleety, maybe? Sleety?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So winger that's just broken through final. Just did score a goal, didn't he? I think on his debut towards the end of last season. But a handful of games to them. Does he get more games final next season? I would suggest he should go on loan within the league and be a starter there. But might stay with final and get some more games off the bench.
Last season he was actually good also. He did not play much, but when he played, he showed potential as well. He was amazing in this tournament, really. The match against Spain said everything about him. He only stopped when he got tired. It was very obvious that he really got tired by the end of the match. I'm really relying a lot on him, to do a lot for Feyenoord and hopefully in the near future for Oranje.
Mike, what position does he play and what are those strengths that he's got?
Left winger, fast, direct. If you're playing on the counter, he can get in behind. He's got a bit of tricks and he can score. I think a lot of this depends on this season is what happens with, Paxel. He's getting linked with moves left, right and centre. That might leave Feyenoord a bit short at left wing. Do they go out and spend money on that position, or do they, turn to Slitty? Because Van Persie will know him well from being a youth coach at Feyenoord, got him now with the first team. That proves that he must be good because, Van Persie is willing to give him that chance. I've worked with him in the youth team, so I think it's a big year for him. I think that he is one that will be looking for a lot of first team football in their division. So if he can step up, break into that Feyenoord team and then make it his own when Paxel leaves, then who knows, he might just make us become first choice.
Yeah, definitely.
On the other side, on the right wing, you've got Ayoub Uvkir, who should now break through for Sparta Rotterdam this season. Once he had a nice summer break and he comes back, he becomes an interesting option for that team. Playing in the Eredivisie at that level, he hasn't played much so far, but with starring in the under-19s, it makes sense, doesn't it, that it's his turn now to play lots of games. So is he a similar kind of option from the right wing, would you say, as Sleety?
But I really want him to play for a bigger team in Holland. I want him to have the chance to play. To have a chance to play in Europe, even if he plays for Utrecht, for example. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Ajax, PSV, or Feyenoord. I just want him to play in Europe. I think he's good enough now to play maybe in the Conference League or the Europa League. But again, even if he decides to stay in Sparta Rotterdam, he's very young. He can still play for one more season and become better and better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there'll be excitement in the Sparta Rotterdam fans. They want to see more of him. I think they saw glimpses of him last season. He contributed a couple of assists for them, but he was, for their under-19 side, I think he scored quite a lot of goals. So I think if Sparta, don't start him from the start, if they start having a rocky season, a lot of people will be calling for him to come into the side and showcase what he's done here. He is very left-footed. So he likes to come in from the right onto his left. But, some great Netherlands wingers from the right have always been left-footed. So, yeah, I don't see that as an issue. He likes to hold on to the ball. He doesn't really sometimes like to pass his teammates under 19 level. That will probably get worked out of him if he's coming into Sparta Rotterdam first team. But, yeah, it's exciting times because I think there is a couple of youth players coming through at Sparta as well. So it depends on Maurice Stein if he's willing to give him that chance week in, week out. And if he can, then yeah, the big move to a bigger Eredivisie club will come, whether it's in January if he's a constant starter for Sparta or next summer.
And how about Danilo Canadu at Ajax? Could he make a breakthrough with Ajax like we saw Brobby years ago? Can he go on better than Brobby? What do you make of his potential?
He didn't really play much last season. He wasn't the main option in Ajax. So he has all the time now to prove himself, I'm not sure really if Heitinga is going to depend on Brobby this season. I'm not sure if Brobby is going to stay. But I think he has been given so many chances. And maybe it's time to give Konado a serious chance to play for Ajax this season to see how he can perform. He's young, he's got potential, and I'm expecting something from him, really. I hope this is going to be the case, though.
Yeah, he's a hard-working striker. He puts himself about. I think he needs to add more goals to his game. I think in 20 appearances for young Ajax last season, he scored once and 3 assists.
Sound like Robbie's kind of record.
And yeah, he didn't score for Ajax in 3 games, but he gave 2 assists. So it's kind of like he's one of these linking strikers that holds the ball up, brings others into play. If you've got speedy wingers, it's great, but he needs to score more goals. So he needs to do that more often for young Ajax at the start of next season to then prove that he is ready to be starting striker. And I'm sure that Heitinga will give him a chance in pre-season as well. So he will get that. And yeah, it depends much on what's happening with Robbie. I think Weghorst will definitely stay with an eye to the World Cup, so he'll want to stick around. But if Robbie then moves on, Canada could be that third choice when they bring in a new striker to replace Robbie. So I think he will get some first team opportunities next season. And if he can add goals to his game, then he definitely has something. He's a really hard worker, strong, tall, pacey. Yeah, I think he can be a really good Eredivisie striker. So yeah, I think it's a big year for him.
Well, I read this on X actually, calling Konado the second version or the new version of Brobbey. I thought that was harsh because of his record, for the young Ajax. But hopefully this is going to change with him. If they give him the confidence to play, hopefully this is going to change and we won't see another version of Brobbey. If you allow me to go back to the defense, actually, I think we all noticed the problem, the miscommunication between the defenders. They made so many mistakes in the match, by the way. It was very hard to build something from the back. I don't know if this is miscommunication. The teamwork really is not that well between the players. Individually, they are all great, but I noticed that in the match, they couldn't really build anything from the back, and they made many mistakes because of that, by the way. Some mistakes could have cost us goals. If you remember, I think it was the second half, the second half, I think. So this is something we should, I don't know if you guys want to talk about,
Yeah, for me, this Jansa, the Ajax centre-back, that's not his strength, playing with the ball at his feet. He's just a good defender. So for me, that's something I'd say. Yeah,
I think Jans is not he's not a ball-playing centre-back. He's just a big lump that, gets in their fights for the ball. He's not going to be like the next coming of... he's not going to bring the ball out 20 yards from defence and pick a pass from 30 yards. He's not that type of defender. He's going to, battle his striker. He's going to put himself about. So his strength isn't with the ball at his feet. And I think Dijkstra as well on the left-hand side. He had a really good tournament, but I think in the final, something was off with him. He did not have a good game. He got beaten a lot of times on the right-hand side. He gave the ball away quite a lot. And yeah, there was a lot of miscommunications. One where they passed it straight to a Spanish attacker who, when he tried to take the ball around here, I think he then dove to the ground. And luckily, the referee didn't fall for it and give a penalty. But yeah, there's stuff like that happened during the game. You can put it down to nerves. Maybe it was nerves being in the final for this age group. But I'd expected more from players like Dijkstra who play for AZ under-19s, who played quite a lot of big games in the UEFA Youth League. But yeah, there was definitely something wrong with the defence. But I think Heerkens in goal had a great game. I don't think he really put anything wrong, claimed a lot of crosses, made a lot of good saves. He's one that has a very bright future for him. Currently at Sparta Prague, but looks like he's going to sign for Ajax in the coming weeks. So good to have him back in the Eredivisie, and hopefully, if he performs well at young Ajax, he can, hold down that Ajax number 1 jersey, because I think they've struggled for a constant number 1 for years since Onana left. So it'd be good for them if they can find somebody that can be their goalkeeper for 2-3 years instead of just constantly chopping and changing.
Yeah, the goalkeeper situation at Ajax is interesting over this summer. That will become clear, won't it, who the first choice, second choice, maybe third choice is, because they need probably all 3 to come in, unless they take a punt on Charlie Setford, who's still coming to the academy there. and had high hopes sort of put on him. But with Hirkens, he either could stay at Sparta Prague and can he become a number one choice. Maybe that's why he's leaving, so he can take a route back to the Netherlands and maybe stake a claim there with Ajax. So he's someone. Then in Austin defence, you've got Precious Ugwu, who surprisingly left Ajax just recently. So next season he'll be at Volendam. And Mike, would you say it's a brilliant move for him personally? And Ajax maybe might have missed out on one here.
Yeah, I think that if he's not going to get the game time at Ajax, then he's got to have some confidence in himself to go out there and play in the Eredivisie week in, week out. If he goes to Volendam and doesn't play in the Eredivisie, then it looks like a really bad move. But if he can go showcase himself there, he's obviously got a lot of confidence in himself because he came out and said, well, if I'm not going to play, I'm going to go elsewhere. Not signing a new deal. I'm not just going to play for a young Ajax in the second division week in, week out and be happy with that. He wants to prove himself, and good on him for doing that. But it's down to him to showcase that he is good enough for the Eredivisie. He is good enough to eventually become a Netherlands centre-back when we know that basically the choice for those positions is so massive at the moment because we keep producing world-class defenders, whereas we're not producing world-class attackers. So if Ugo can become another one of those, and the signs are promising, I think a lot of Ajax fans are surprised that he's leaving, so that's a good sign if Ajax fans want him to stay. But yeah, I'm glad that he's going to be a regular Eredivisie defender next season, even if it's for a club that might struggle when they come up.
We could talk about the midfielders next. Mark Vacal is another Ajax player. He's played a number of games for young Ajax. What's the potential of him? Do you think because obviously not all going to make it at a high level, this under-19 side, but does Vacal have the potential to get into the Ajax first team eventually once he's had some more development?
I hope I am wrong, but I'm not really expecting much from him. As you said, Michael, he seems to be the kind of Klaassen, the kind of Taylor. To be honest, I did not see anything special about him. So he might end up like that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he develops, but this is what I see for them at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's a tidy defensive midfielder. I think that he needs to maybe go out on loan somewhere to prove himself. I think I can see him on loan at somewhere like Sparta, NEC Nijmegen or Heerenveen, get games for them. But I don't think I see him breaking into the Ajax first team anytime soon. I hope I'm wrong. And then he has an absolutely amazing season. And the next thing you know, we're looking at the next Frankie de Jong, but I don't think we are. With Recoil, I think the other two midfielders that we're going to talk about are a step above him in terms of class. He did his job well. But yeah, I don't think I don't think anyone's really pinpointing him as a star midfielder for this team.
Sigurdsson then is the midfield partner there. And for so long with Football-Oranje, we keep mentioning him and his potential and how he must be so frustrated and not playing enough games for PSV because of how Peter Bosz doesn't really choose younger players. But why not make that low move somewhere else then? That is still his choice to try and do something like that. It has to come this season, doesn't it? Unless he is going to become a starter of PSV. But I think that's really unlikely with Bosz staying around.
That's what really concerns me. I don't want us to experience what happened to what's his name, Babadi. This is exactly what happened to him for Bosz keeping him at the bench and not going anywhere else. And now we pretty much forgot about him. I don't want that. I don't want this to happen to Land. If he's not going to get any minutes with PSV, I think he should be loaned to some other team. I doubt he will be a starter this season. PSV's midfield has so many players, and I don't think Bosz will look at him at all. Seriously.
Yeah, I think a loan move is on the cards for Land. I think there's rumours that it is going to happen. And it's the best for him because, PSV have shown that they're not willing to give him enough game time. Even if, midfielders leave, I think, Tillman's on his way out. Depends what happens with Schouten and Veerman. This summer they'll probably stay and then that'll block Land's route into the first team again. And he's not going to learn anything from playing week in, week out in the second division for young PSV. He's done that too long now, so he needs to go out. He needs to play in Eredivisie because he's that good. He can definitely showcase his talents in the league. And he's when he plays in Eredivisie, I think he'll be one of the top midfielders outside of the top three. I think he has potential to be a Netherlands midfielder for the main national team when he actually gets a chance to prove himself. So yeah, I'm excited to see him playing on loan this season because it's the same for Babadi. I want him to see him on loan because I just think that if you're PSV, there needs to be some sort of route to your first team. It's the same at any Dutch club. You need to have a route to your first team from your academy. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. And I think PSV right now, with Bosch in charge, there's no route to the first team for some of the players in PSV.
Yeah, if I may, I was making like a comparison between this team that won the Euros and the last young Oranje that won the Euros, which was Oranje under 21. Unfortunately, 9 players from the 11, they had wrong decisions and they ruined their career. We don't know anything about most of them now. Lammers, for example, was one of them, when they won the Euro for under 21. The Danjuma. I don't want this to happen with this young Oranje. This team has so much potential. I really hope they learn from that. So the player who thinks he's not going to be a starter, he should find his way out, to be loaned to any other team. Because I think at least 7 players from this team can make it to the highest level,
Yeah, I think it's different from the past as well because we've seen Netherlands under 17 teams win European Championships, and you're like, okay, it's still going to be a few years until we start to see them coming through. But this is under 19. These guys are ready to play first team football, especially in Eredivisie where it's a league for young talents. And yeah, if they're not going to get game time for their parent club, and a lot of these players are, apart from Ufkir, they are Ajax, PSV, Feyenoord, AZ Alkmaar. So yeah, if they're not going to get game time, they need to go out on loan because the quality in the second division isn't there, and I think they really need to be playing week in, week out in the Eredivisie.
Yeah, it's not normal for this to be happening with these young players at PSV. You would expect they are throwing him, and 1 player out of that 11 or 2 players out of the starting 11 is a young player that's just been thrown in, given the chance to see if they sink or swim. Ajax done it so often over the years, famously, but other Dutch teams do it too. And PSV just have stopped doing this now, so it's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Feyenoord are doing it now. Feyenoord are under Van Persie. I think will give a lot of chances to youth players. But yeah, it's PSV at the moment that they do have ones coming through in the academy, but it just don't seem like Vessel Koen's another one. Very, very talented, but his minutes for PSV first team so far have been very, very limited. And when you're 5-0 up against Excelsior at home and you're bringing on Who's Till for the last half an hour, what are you learning? You're not learning anything as a club. And yeah, I think that's the main criticism of Bosch is when you've got a game wrapped up, give the youth a chance. I know he's trying to keep his dressing room happy. If Who's Till is playing on the bench week in, week out, then he's going to want to leave. Same with Saibari when he wasn't playing. But as a club, you've got to realise, these guys are your future. Babari could potentially make you 40, 50 million if you play him and he does what his potential is. Yes. Whereas, they're losing Tillman for a release clause. Saibari will probably go for probably about 20 million. Bakayoko is now looking like a 20 million pound player when a couple of years ago you could have said, 50, 60 million. So, yeah, it's the guys that are youth players that are coming through that they really need to depend on. And yeah, Bosch just doesn't seem to get that.
Boss seems like he only cares for winning the title or winning his games. He doesn't really look for the future. That's why many players are buried, under his management, really. Many younger players. I think Van Persie, what he did last year, there was a match where there were like 15 players missing, I think. It was against Inter Milan or AC Milan. He brought many of those young players, and we saw what they were made of, And that's why I think this young team, since there are so many players from Feyenoord, they do have the potential. I'm really hoping to see a lot from them this coming season.
But that shows as well that AZ, Feyenoord, and Ajax currently have managers who manage their youth teams, whereas PSV have one that doesn't. So Heitinga, Martins, and Van Persie know these young players, know how good they are, whereas Peter Bosz just doesn't seem to care.
Yeah, just win the league and that's it.
Yeah. All quite short-term gains. I'm looking at some of the substitutes from the final of the Netherlands under-19s win against Spain. And I just wondered if you guys want to pick out some players who stand out for you. I mean, for me, I can see Lucas Van Igor of Hesselink, who is son of Van Igor of Hesselink. Sebekeno Redmonds, who's signed for Aston Villa this summer. You've got Mats Rots, who's was a regular in the second half of last season with Heracles Almelo on loan from Twente to see start games 20 this season. And Shane Van Arle has just signed for Juventus. Don't think he'll play in their first team next season, but in the future, is he someone that could play there in Italy or get certainly a good career within a top 5 league? Yeah, who do you guys want to pick out?
Vinegar of Hustling, since it's his father wasn't that special, really. I hope he will be special.
Because he had a really long name.
Yeah, just the long name was the only special thing about him. But I do have big respect. I don't mean any disrespect with that. He scored some goals for Oranje, but he did not really get the chance to play. After all, he was kind of limited a player, you know. I hope the son is not like that, really. Other than that, I don't really recall any player who impressed me when he came as a sub. I don't know if that's the case with Mike.
Yeah, I think Bugard, for me, he plays for AZ. I think he showed potential in midfield. But yeah, I think that up front, you know, I have big question marks on Redmond and what he showed for Feyenoord when he got chances. He's going to Aston Villa. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him, if he just sticks with under 21s and eventually, you know, they sell him off for profit.
I think it'll be exactly that.
Yeah. Maybe he'll go to the Championship on loan. If he has a good time there, then a club would pay 7 to 10 million for him, and then that helps with PSR. So I think that's the sort of thing that they're looking at. Van Arle, I think we've seen in recent years there's been a lot of Dutch youngsters that have gone to Juventus and played in their academy and have not done anything. And I worry that would just be the same for him. Whereas I think that, you know, teams like Bologna are a much smarter move for Dutch players because they actually get chances. But yeah, I think going to Juventus when you're not, you know, week in, week out, renowned name in the Netherlands, is a risk. And I hope it is a case that we don't just see him in 3-4 years disappear, because, you know, that'd be a shame. But yeah, I don't think anyone on the bench really stood out as, oh, they should have been playing week in, week out. Whereas, you know, under 21s that we spoke about last week, there's players on the bench that you wanted to see. I don't think there's anyone here that would be like, okay, they really missed out. So yeah, I think that Pierre van de Ven, the head coach, got it pretty much spot on with his first team in this tournament.
It's really interesting looking back at one of the last times the Netherlands won a youth competition. So going back to 2018, when the under-17s won the Euros for the first time out of the 2 that they won back-to-back. And looking at that squad, looking at the players that are doing really well and the players you're like, yeah, I remember them. And then seeing that they're in the 3rd or 4th tier of Dutch football. I'll throw some names at you. I mean, the ones that stand out for positive reasons are Ryan Gravenberch, who we all know is at Liverpool. We've got the Timber brothers, Robbie, to a lesser extent, I suppose, but still standing out at the top of Dutch football. You've got Somerville, who's gone to West Ham. After that, you've got players that are kind of making half a career for themselves. You've got Liam van Gelder playing in the Eredivisie. Wouter Berger's a good player for Stoke City. Mohamed Hataden, but then he's had his own troubles, hasn't he, throughout his career. But maybe he stays in the Eredivisie this summer. And Kenzo Houdman as well, playing for Derby. And after that, you're like, wow, goodness me. Remember Bram Franken, who now plays in the Tweede Divisie. You've got Sharandi Sambo, who's not really ever played a game for Burnley. And a few others too. Yeah, it shows that they don't all make it, but if they'll make it in their own ways, and they don't always have to go to the top. Players that might have potential now might not see that through.
Yeah,
it's always tricky when these youth tournaments. It's the same when when you talk about we win the under-21s as well, not all of them make it, even though they're closer to first teams. It's under-17, under-19 level. Anything can happen in the coming years. Like one of these players could have an injury and then never recover from it. Stuff like that happens all the time. But it's down to the clubs to give them a chance. These players have shown in this tournament we're good enough to play. It's now down to their clubs to show support in them, because all these players return to their clubs as European champions. They're walking into those dressing rooms. We just won a European championship. There's Netherlands have never done that at under-19 level. They're the first team to do it. So they command a bit of respect when they're in the youth teams of these clubs. And now they need to go on and showcase that they can do it in the first team. Because, it's much trickier when they try and make that step up, especially from under-21 to full-time football. You always see the drop-offs. And, I really hope that some of these names can make it. I mean, usually the main stand-up ones do. So I think that, we already know Reed's an excellent player, Smith's an excellent player, and we're going to see more from Tiger Land. It's whether the Bogards, the Konadus, can they step up and become real good players? It's down to them. It's down to the coaches, because if they're not going to get a chance at Ajax or Feyenoord or the PSV, go down the league, go to your Groningans, your Henbanes, because if you do well for them, the moves will happen. Just look at players like Valente, who's now signing for Feyenoord from Groningen. So it can happen if you go down to these clubs and play well.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, Mike and Abdul, is there anything else you want to mention about the Netherlands under-19s? Big victory before we go.
Of course, it makes us really optimistic for the future. The team now, Oranje, is very crowded with the stars. I remember 6 years ago only, the starters were Ryan Babel, Promes, Van de Beek, Diron. With all respect to these players, but we all knew they were very mediocre players. They cannot really win you anything. And some of them were taken, most of them were taken actually to the World Cup 2022. And it wasn't really an impressive World Cup for Oranje. But nowadays, the team is full of stars. In every position, you have maybe 3 or 4 players, except for the striker position, which I hope we can solve this problem soon. So it's very promising. I'm not really expecting much from Oranje under 21. I think there are only maybe 3 players who we can call impressive and can have a bright future. But with this team, I think we can get at least 7 players to play for Oranje in the next few years. Some of them might even make it for the next World Cup if Koeman decides to try 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah. I think it's just, what this has made me is just very excited for Eredivisie to come back. This, along with, preseason games, there's a lot of preseason games today, and I was looking at the squads, looking at the players that are coming through. Like a 15-year-old scored for Sparta Rotterdam. He's an attacker, and it's like, oh, wow, that could be the next superstar that comes through. It just makes you excited for the Eredivisie to come back, and let's see some of these players actually in the league doing what they've done for this under-19 side, and then we can talk about them potentially as options for Ronald Koeman, and then Ronald Koeman won't pick them, and then they'll get on the podcast and they'll get really annoyed because he's not picking them. But that's just the cycle of life with the Netherlands. But one thing I want to say is that it really annoys me that he's national team head coach and he's nowhere to be seen at any under-21 games, any under-19 games, wasn't there for the final. I've not seen any message of support from him anywhere to any of these players as far as any statements put out. I think for the head coach of the Netherlands, when some of these players could be good enough for his side, is pretty poor, when we know that he's not exactly famed for watching players, and he gets some of his information from his assistants. So I think it's a poor show from him.
Must even do most of the year. Like when he's not managing the team, he can't be up to much. When you think of Gareth Southgate for England, with the impact he had throughout the media, like you would expect he would have been posting throughout the run of an England under-19 side getting to a final, then big celebrations when they win. And Koeman has to be the same, being a figurehead for Dutch football. But that's disappointing, isn't it?
Well, I saw his relationship with the players, when they come to the camp, when they leave the camp. It was nice. He has a very good relationship with the players, and that's very good. I also watched him giving the speech after we lost to England in Euro 2024. It was also a nice speech. It was very obvious that the players are kind of attached to him. Maybe I'm not trying to find an excuse. I'm just thinking, maybe he didn't really watch any of these matches because he knows that he doesn't need any players from this team. I mean, if he decides to choose Smith, for example, who is he gonna drop? He's got Frankie De Jong, Koop Miners, Gravenberg, Reinders. So maybe he wants to wait for a year or two for these players, not to give them a chance now. Or maybe he wants to wait at least this season, because this season we all know it's crucial. This is the last season before the World Cup. So he wants to see how they will perform in the league, and maybe based on that, he's gonna choose the players. But I agree with you. He should have given them the support for attending to that match, and just a reminder that you can represent the big Oranje someday. I agree with you on that. Yes,
especially for those that are dual nationality as well, because you can be sure that any of these players that are eligible for Morocco, the Morocco FA are right onto them and talking to them now, being like, "Oh, we have a big plans for you for the future." So it depends if the KNVB are doing that behind closed doors as well.
yes. And speaking of what you said there, Michael, about being anxious to watch the new season for the Eredivisie, I think the most two teams that I'm really excited to watch are AZ and Feyenoord. They have the most younger players, so I really hope we can see the best from them. Just I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, it could be a very exciting season for AZ out there with all the talents they have. They're in Europe, of course, as well. And if they can grow those talents in line with a good season, it could be very special for them. We should go then, I suppose. It's time for us to go. And thank everyone for watching, listening. And do give us a big thumbs up. Give us a like if you enjoyed it. And we'll be back eventually with another podcast. But there's much else on the website. Mike's going to keep everyone up to date with all the transfer news that's going on over the summer in the Eredivisie.
Yeah, there's already a lot of deals going through now. Even on the day we were recording this podcast, Molambo's completed his move it seems like he's completed his move to Brentford. Van Bommel has been linked with a move to Bologna. So yeah, there's moves everywhere happening at the moment. So yeah, it's an exciting time to see where these players will end up. And same with PSV, Noah Lang with Napoli. So yeah, there's going to be a busy few months, I think, for these Eredivisie clubs.
Yeah. I made a small statistic to see how many players will play for the Premier League in the Premier League this season. I ended up with almost 30 players. They all play in the Premier League. So I think this is going to be also an exciting league for Dutch football fans. Many of them will represent Oranje. So I think Eredivisie and the Premier League will tell a lot this season for how Oranje is going to be in the World Cup.
Exciting times ahead. Thank you everyone again, and we'll see you very soon. Bye.